The first day I woke up as the real heir, my biological parents were sitting right across from me, their eyes fixed on me like spectators watching two beasts in a pit. They signaled that I could start the competition against the fake heir sitting opposite me, but I literally worked myself to death in my previous life. That night, the fake heir Dustin Clark found me and shoved a $5 million card across the table, his voice tight. "Take the money and never come back." I looked at the faint redness around his eyes, a telltale sign of tension, and my internal alarm bells went off. Something was wrong, very wrong. This money was too little. I pushed the card back with a blank expression. He panicked, as expected, grinding his teeth and increasing the offer to $10 million. I smiled. I packed up and fled that night, bought all the Topophthalene appliances for my foster parents in the countryside, and then turned around and bought out an entire hillside to raise 300 piglets. I thought my life of easy living had finally begun, that is, until a month later when a flashy red Ferrari got stuck in the mud right in front of my pig pen. Dustin Clark and his female CEO admirer, dressed in bespoke suits and an evening gown, were being chased and vigorously nudged by my pig king, Patches. The long dining table felt as cold as a coffin. My name is Ethan Vance. Yesterday, I was a corporate drone who dropped dead at my desk. Today, I was the true heir to the Clark family. Sitting directly across from me was the fake heir, Dustin Clark. The fingers gripping his knife and fork were trembling slightly. In the center of the table sat my biological parents. Father Marcus Clark cleared his throat, his voice utterly devoid of warmth. "Ethan, we know you've suffered out there all these years." He paused, his gaze sweeping between the two of us. "From this day forward, you and Dustin are both sons of the Clark family. The company and the estate go to the most capable." My mother gracefully dabbed the corner of her mouth beside him, adding, "That's right, fair competition." Her eyes held undisguised amusement, like watching two roosters about to clash. I looked down silently, cutting into the steak on my plate. In my last life, I lived on a 996 schedule, working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, and finally collapsed over my desk, and now another fight? Do you guys want to cultivate some kind of venomous creature? Dustin's face went even paler. His eyes were filled with weariness and fear as he looked at me. I ignored him and focused on eating. This steak was cooked medium, juicy, and infinitely better than the pre-packaged lunchboxes I ate in my previous life. The meal concluded in an atmosphere thick with coldness and strangeness. My parents were clearly dissatisfied with my uninterested attitude. The butler led me to the guest room, which was 10 times larger than the studio apartment I used to rent and 10 times emptier. All I wanted was sleep. In the dead of night, there was a violent pounding on my door. Dustin burst in. He had changed into casual clothes, but his entire body was still coiled tight like an overtaut bowstring. He locked the door behind him, as if afraid of being overheard. With a snap, he slapped a bank card onto the table. "There's $5 million here." His voice was kept low, laced with a tremor. "Take the money, leave this place, and never show your face again." I looked at the card, then looked at him. The corners of his eyes were red from the tension. My heart dropped. Something felt off. This payment was insultingly low. Was the identity of a Clark family heir only worth $5 million? Was he paying off a beggar? I remained silent, simply extending a finger to push the card back across the table. The movement was gentle, but Dustin's expression changed instantly. "What's the meaning of this?" His voice abruptly rose, then was instantly suppressed, carrying a hint of frantic agitation. Leaning back in the chair, I spoke slowly and deliberately. "You think the identity of a Clark family heir is only worth $5 million? My tone was flat, precisely puncturing his carefully constructed composure. He had fallen for it, just as I expected. He thought I was ambitious and had returned to fight him for the fortune. His face flushed from pale to ashen, his lips trembling. "Don't push it too far." I laughed once, said nothing, and just watched him quietly. Sometimes silence carries more pressure than any words. The fear in his eyes was almost spilling over, the extreme panic of losing his current life and status. I silently counted down in my head, 3, 2, 1, $8 million. He squeezed the words out from between his teeth, as if using the last of his strength. "That's my limit." I stood up, making a move as if to walk out, letting out a soft chuckle. "It seems we have nothing more to discuss. Good night." That single soft laugh completely shattered his psychological defenses. Wait. He grabbed my arm from behind, his voice laced with pleading. 10 million. I seriously don't have any more. This is all my savings from over the years. Please. I stopped and turned around. Deal. I reluctantly took the card, coolly tossing out one last line. Remember your word, and don't bother me again. With that, I turned and left, not sparing him another glance. The moment I closed the door, the smile on my face could no longer be suppressed. It was practically stretching to my ears. 10 million. What a stroke of luck. This was a seed fund dropped straight from the heavens. I immediately opened my phone and booked the earliest train ticket back to the countryside. I didn't want to spend another second in this cold, suffocating place. The next morning, before dawn broke, I slipped out of the Clark mansion with my old backpack. As I sat on the train pulling away from the city, the Clark household exploded over my disappearance. The butler reported, his voice trembling. Sir, ma'am, young Master Ethan's room is empty, he's gone. Marcus Clark threw the newspaper he was holding onto the floor in anger. The nerve. He's trying to play hard to get with me. My mother also frowned. I knew it. Someone raised in the boondocks can never be truly sophisticated. They only resort to cheap tricks like this. Only Dustin stood aside, too guilty to look up. He feared my return with a vengeance. Yet he vaguely felt that perhaps I had genuinely taken the money and run. Outside the train window, the towering skyscrapers retreated, eventually giving way to rolling fields. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of freedom I had never known before. To hell with the infighting of the rich. This old man was going back to the village to chill. Train to bus, bus to a rickety truck. After bouncing around for over 10 hours, I finally returned to the small mountain village where I was born and raised. Under the great locust tree at the village entrance stood two familiar figures. It was my dad, Jack Stone, and my mom, Susan Stone. Their skin was dark from working outdoors, their faces etched with the passing years, but when they saw me, they smiled brighter than the sun. Little E is home. Mom hurried over, taking my backpack. She chided me gently. You kid, you didn't even call to say you were coming. Look how thin you are, you must not have been eating right out there. Dad followed behind, speaking little, just smiling broadly and reaching out to lift me onto his shoulders like he did when I was a kid. I quickly stopped him. Dad, I'm a grown man now, I can walk. Looking at them, my nose stung with emotion. This was family. Back home, it was still the same clay brick house I'd lived in for decades, the walls covered in my old report cards. Mom and Dad pushed me to the table, serving me steaming hot food, constantly piling meat onto my plate. So, when you found your real parents in the city, how were things? Were they good to you? Mom asked cautiously. I shoveled a mouthful of rice, mumbling. They were fine, and I won the lottery. I made a little windfall. As I said that, I pulled out the $10 million card. Dad, Mom, there's money in here. You guys don't have to work so hard anymore. They both froze when they saw the card. What? Where did you get this? This money, you didn't do anything illegal, right? Dad became anxious. Don't worry, I swear I won the lottery. I solemnly guaranteed it. To convince them, I dragged them to the town bank the next day. When the teller announced that long string of zeros, my parents' eyes widened like dinner plates. They stared, hands trembling, unable to speak for a long time. I smiled. Dad, Mom, let's go spend some money. That day, the people of our town witnessed an astonishing sight. A massive flatbed truck loaded with the town's largest flat-screen TVs, side-by-side refrigerators, topophthalene front-loading washing machines, and all sorts of high-end appliances I couldn't even name, paraded proudly into our village. Villagers poured out to watch, murmuring with envy, jealousy, and curiosity. The Stones hit the jackpot. Look at that TV. It's bigger than my front door. My parents stood with their chests puffed out, wearing pride and self-satisfaction I'd never seen before. Under their proud gazes, I experienced the ultimate satisfaction of spending money and felt genuine family connection. That evening, in front of the whole family, I announced my grand plan. We're tearing down this old house and building a proper 2-story home. And that barren land on the back mountain, I'm leasing it. Dad blinked. Leasing a mountain for what? I grinned, flashing a mouthful of white teeth. To raise pigs. My life of laying back was about to begin with 300 piglets. I acted immediately. The construction crew quickly arrived, the clanging sounds shattering the village's quiet. Meanwhile, I took the money and traveled across several surrounding counties, inspecting the best breeding pig farms. In the end, I carefully selected 300 lively, cute, round-bottomed Duroc piglets. I gave my farm a catchy name, the Chill Zone. Every day, I wear my cargo shorts, flip-flops, a straw hat, hum a little tune, and prepare nutritious meals for my piglets. Watching them snort and fight for their food, growing bigger every day, filled me with incredible contentment. This was way more interesting than staring at PowerPoint presentations in an office. While I was enjoying my leisure, Dustin Clark, miles away in Metro City, was having a terrible time. The more completely I vanished, the more panicked he became. He constantly felt that the sudden departure of the true heir was the calm before the storm, hiding some massive, earth-shattering conspiracy behind it. The private investigator he sent quickly brought back a report. Target subject Ethan Vance is currently in Greenfield Village, having leased an entire hillside. Occupation, pig farmer. Attached to the report was a high-definition photo. In the picture, I was wearing rubber boots, squatting in the mud, cheerfully scratching a little pig behind the ears, man and pig harmonious and joyful. When Dustin saw this photo, far from feeling relieved, his pupils dilated, and he sucked in a sharp breath. His mind instantly conjured up an entire season of a prince's revenge drama. A disguise. This had to be a disguise. How could he, Ethan Vance, the true heir of a wealthy family, possibly be content raising pigs? This must be him gathering strength in secret in the countryside. He wasn't raising pigs, he was building his private army. When the time was right, he would return to Metro City, leading a highly trained swine brigade to take everything from me. Dustin grew more terrified the more he thought about it, having nightmares for several nights in a row where I was riding a giant wild boar, smashing through the gates of the Clark estate. Just as he was on the verge of a mental breakdown, his number one admirer, the dominant CEO Samantha Hayes, came to visit him. Samantha Hayes, the head of Stellar Corp, stood 5'9", exuding the aura of 6'6", but in front of Dustin, she was a complete lovesick puppy. Seeing Dustin distracted and growing thinner, her heart ached. "Dusty, what's wrong? Who is bullying you? Tell me, and I'll make them bankrupt." Dustin looked at Samantha, a look of grim determination flashing in his eyes. "No, I can't just sit here and wait anymore. I have to go see for myself. I need to expose Ethan's scheme face to face and show him that I, Dustin Clark, am not someone to be messed with." He made up his mind to ride out to my chill zone and uncover the truth. Dustin didn't dare drive his own car. He snuck out and took the most ostentatious, globally limited edition red Ferrari from his father's garage. His thought was that driving this car would use sheer presence to overwhelm Ethan and show him what true wealth looked like. Samantha Hayes learned of Dustin's movements through special channels. Thinking Dustin was off to close some world-changing deal, she didn't hesitate. She jumped into her white Maserati and followed closely behind. And so, on the country road leading to Greenfield Village, an utterly bizarre scene unfolded. A red Ferrari sped ahead, kicking up a trail of dust. A white Maserati relentlessly chased behind, making even the old oxen plowing by the roadside turn their heads repeatedly. The navigation destination, the Chill Zone pig farm. When the Ferrari executed a stylish drift and screeched to a halt at the pig farm's main gate, Dustin was dumbfounded. There was no grand estate before him, just a simple chain-link gate behind, which was a large muddy field. Because of a heavy rain the night before, the open area in front of the gate was now a muddy swamp. The Ferrari, with its low chassis, let out a heartbreaking clunk as half of its wheels instantly sank into the mire. It stalled. Dustin, dressed in a bespoke white suit, sat in the driver's seat, looking out at the mud outside that smelled of rustic fragrance. His handsome face twisted in shock and disgust. Samantha Hayes, trailing closely behind, slammed on her brakes when she saw the Ferrari's predicament, but it was too late. Her Maserati plowed right in after it, half a wheel getting stuck in the mud too. "Dusty!" Samantha cried out in alarm, jumping out of her car in a Chanel suit and 10-centimeter stilettos. Then her scream pierced the sky. That beautiful, slender heel sank straight into the mud and wouldn't come out. Just then, the pig farm gate creaked open. I walked out wearing a pair of canvas sneakers, holding a steaming basin of pig slop. Seeing this luxury car pile up, and the sight of one woman standing on one leg by the gate, I froze. Dustin, Samantha Hayes, me. 3 people, 6 eyes, stared at each other across the half-dead Ferrari in the muddy ground. The air was thick with the scent of post-rain earth, the aroma of pig feed, and a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Ethan Vance. Dustin was the first to break the silence. He scrambled out of the car window, one foot planted precariously on the only clean part of the door, pointing at me and yelling hoarsely. "You are here. Tell me, what exactly are you planning?" I tilted my head innocently, shaking the basin of slop in my hand. "Feeding the pigs, can't you see?" "You." Dustin was so enraged he nearly fell out of the car. Samantha Hayes, balanced on one foot, with the other high-heeled shoe still mired in the mud, tried hard to maintain her dominant CEO composure. "Ethan Vance is it?" She pulled a black card from her purse, striking an elegant pose as if she were at a high-society gala instead of a pigsty entrance. "Name your price to leave Dustin's world." I looked at the black card, then at her high-heeled deep in the mire, and asked with perfect sincerity, "Is that card more useful than a backhoe right now?" Samantha's expression froze instantly. Just as the atmosphere reached a point of tension and absurdity, chaos erupted. A series of urgent oinks and grunts came from inside the pig pen. My heart lurched. Trouble. It was Patches. Patches is the queen of my farm, a sow weighing over 300 pounds. She had just farrowed a litter of piglets a couple of days ago, and is fiercely protective with a terrible temper. She must have smelled Samantha's perfume, strong enough to knock out a cow, and sensed a threat. With a tremendous thud, Patches, like a pink tank, burst through the loosely latched pen door, roaring as she charged out. Her body was covered in mud spatters, and her target was clear, the 2 impeccably dressed invaders. Dustin, who had severe mysophobia, let out a dolphin-like shriek when he saw the mud-caked behemoth charging at him. Patches clearly took him as the primary threat, lowered her head, and used her powerful snout to accurately target his pristine white suit trousers. Dustin was terrified out of his wits. Without thinking, he turned to run, but his foot slipped, and he landed squarely in the mud, instantly transforming from a Prince Charming into a mudman. "Dusty!" Samantha cried out, trying to rescue her beloved, but Patches whipped her head around, sending a spray of mud like machine gun fire all over Samantha's face and body. "Oh, my dress!" Chanel became Mudnell, and Samantha also broke down. For a moment, the pig farm entrance became the setting for an epic human-versus-pig chase. The 2 pampered city dwellers were sent scrambling and squealing across the ground by an enraged sow. Finally, driven by an overwhelming will to survive, the pair scrambled and crawled their way up onto. No, they clambered onto a nearby crooked old locust tree. The scene was, for a moment, utterly ridiculous. I stood there, mouth agape, watching the 2 figures perched in the tree, covered in mud and clearly shaken. After a few seconds, I finally couldn't help myself. I pulled out my knockoff smartphone. I opened the video function and aimed it at the 2 of them in the tree. Don't worry. I called up to them kindly while recording. "Patches is just a little protective of her babies. She doesn't bite. She just likes to nudge people with her nose. You 2 are safest up there in the tree." Dustin hugged the trunk, shaking from fear and anger. "Ethan, get this monster away from me right now. Do you believe I'll go back?" I zoomed the camera in on his handsome face, smeared with dirt and leaves. "Go back and do what? Offer me another 10 million? A single sentence from me choked Dustin so badly, he nearly fell out of the tree. I smiled with satisfaction, and without a second thought uploaded this 10-second clip to the Greenfield Village friendly WhatsApp group. I even added a thoughtful caption. Had 2 distinguished guests stop by the farm. Didn't have much to offer, so I had Patches personally escort them up the tree. The message caused an instant sensation. Within a minute, the village WhatsApp group exploded. Old Man Wong from the tofu stand at the head of the village. "Whoa, those city kids are wearing fancy threads, but they climb trees faster than monkeys." Aunt Lehu raises chickens at the back of the village. Is some celebrity filming a movie here? That styling is certainly unique. In the next second, the area outside my pig farm gate became a lively spectacle. Old Man Wong arrived carrying his shoulder pole. Aunt Lehu arrived clutching her rooster. The village children, The half-grown lads who herd cattle all rushed over in a flurry. The scene instantly transformed from a man versus pig battle into a massive rural gossip fest. Villagers surrounded the base of the tree, pointing and laughing unabashedly at Dustin and Samantha, whose chuckles echoed frequently. "Oh my, that girl's shoe is still stuck in the mud. TSK TSK, that white suit is officially ruined." My parents were also alerted and rushed over. After a moment of shock, they burst into peals of laughter. Mom even enthusiastically encouraged the crowd. "Don't be shy, everyone. Come see. Come see." A rare sight in the tree. Samantha Hayes' CEO persona completely crumbled. She buried her face in her arm against the trunk, looking like she wanted to weep. Dustin's face cycled through shades of red and white. He wished he could simply disappear on the spot. Under the scrutiny of the entire village, these two pampered darlings of the metropolis experienced a complete and utter social death. It wasn't until dusk fell that I managed to coax the now satisfied Patches back into the pen with a basin of specially prepared slop. Only then did the two esteemed guests dare to climb down, trembling from the tree. They were filthy, smelly, and entirely stripped of their former dignity. What was worse, Dustin called the towing company. The operator politely informed him after hearing the address and road conditions. "Sir, your road is too bad. Our tow truck can't get in. We'll have to wait until the road dries out tomorrow." This meant they would have to spend the night in the very village they despised. Their faces were ashen. I crossed my arms and strolled over with a smirk. "How about you two make do for the night at my place?" Dustin was instantly wary. "What kind of trick are you planning now?" I enthusiastically pointed toward the newly built, yet unfurnished, two-story house in the distance. "My parents just finished building it, but the guest room isn't quite ready." I then pointed to a small shed next to it, "Or you could stay in the woodshed." "What?" Samantha shrieked. "You expect us to stay in a woodshed?" I shrugged, feigning innocence. "My parents need the guest room. You just experienced the pig pen. And if you're not satisfied, you can go back to the tree. I won't stop you." The two exchanged a look and after a moment, humiliatingly chose the woodshed over the locust tree. For dinner, my mom kindly brought them plain white rice and stir-fried greens. Dustin looked at the coarse bowl and chopsticks with disdain and didn't touch a bite. Samantha, famished after a day of fasting, couldn't afford to worry about appearances. She snatched up her bowl and wolfed down the food, enjoying it more than anyone. The next morning, I blocked the doorway to the woodshed. "You two can't stay here for free. Today, you have to work to pay off your lodging." I assigned them tasks. Task 1, feed the pigs. As soon as Dustin reached the pigpen entrance and smelled the rich aroma, he immediately gagged and threw up. Samantha pinched her nose and dumped the entire large basin of pig slop onto the ground with a crash, causing the piglets to fall into chaos. Task 2, weed the vegetable patch. Samantha mistook the thriving chives for weeds and pulled every single one clean. My mom nearly had a heart attack watching. Task 3, chop wood. Dustin summoned his courage, picked up the axe, and imitated my dad's stance, bringing it down with force. The axe missed the log entirely, instead flying through the air in a graceful arc, finally landing with a thwack on the door of the chicken coop. The hens inside exploded in a flurry of feathers. Meanwhile, I pulled up a chair, sat in the yard, leisurely sipping the chrysanthemum tea my mom brewed, and watched the clumsy performance of these two urban infants. This was far more entertaining than any comedy show on TV. My mood was utterly delightful. This sort of rural revitalization lifestyle continued for 3 days. Dustin did little but complain and throw tantrums. Nothing pleased him. "This water tastes weird. This blanket feels damp. Ethan, are you doing this on purpose?" Samantha, however, though still clumsy, was undergoing a subtle shift in her mindset. She began to find the rhythm of working from sunrise to sunset novel. On the first day, she complained about the dirt. By the third day, she could face the muck and feed the chickens in rubber boots without flinching. In the afternoon, Old Man Wong's tractor broke down on the road, and I fixed it in a jiffy. Old Man Wong kept praising how capable I was. Samantha watched from a short distance, a strange gleam in her eyes. At dinner that night, she quietly said to Dustin, "Actually, Ethan might not be that bad. He's kind of cool." Dustin was busy battling a mosquito and sneered in response. "Cool? With all that country bumpkin aura he has, how is that cool? For the first time, Samantha argued back. At least he managed to get us food here, and he can fix a tractor. Dustin froze. He never expected Samantha to defend Ethan. A crack appeared between them for the first time. While internal divisions were forming between them, a much larger storm was brewing and heading toward the small village. That private investigator Dustin had hired was very diligent. He sent back the latest intel. Clark heirs stuck in the countryside, chased by pigs, forced into labor, complete with photos. When Marcus Clark and his wife saw the photos of their son looking utterly disheveled, they completely lost it. A profound insult. Both of their good-for-nothing sons had disgraced the Clark name. One ran off to raise pigs, and the other chased a man right into a pig pen. Get the car ready. Marcus Clark's face was dark green with rage. I'm going to see for myself what kind of magic this backwater hovel holds. They decided to come and drag their sons home to clean up the mess. So, on the afternoon of the fourth day, a stately black Bentley, under the watchful eyes of the entire village, rolled over the newly dried dirt road and stopped steadily in front of the chill zone gate. The car door opened, and Marcus Clark and his wife, dressed in immaculate designer suits and sporting sunglasses, stepped out, flanked by a contingent of black-suited bodyguards. They immediately spotted Dustin in the yard, scattering feed to the chickens, completely covered in mud, and Samantha Hayes standing beside him, clumsily offering help. And then they saw the perpetrator, Ethan Vance, lounging in a rocking chair, casually watching the show. The Clark parents' faces instantly darkened like the bottom of a wok. "Dustin!" Marcus Clark roared, the sound startling the chickens in the yard into a flutter. He strode over, grabbed Dustin by the nose, trembling with fury. "Look at you! What kind of state are you in? You disgraced the Clark name. Get back in the car with me now." Dustin flinched under the tirade and instinctively lowered his head. Mrs. Clark completely ignored her son. She took off her sunglasses and scrutinized my honest, hard-working parents with a look of extreme contempt. "Is it you two who taught him to be like this?" Her voice was sharp and cutting, dripping with condescending superiority. As expected, a wretched place breeds uncivilized people. The poor can never raise a proper gentleman. My parents, simple and honest their whole lives, had never faced such a confrontation. They immediately turned pale, nervously wringing the corners of their shirts. At that moment, a string snapped inside me. I stood up in a rocking chair, stepped forward, and positioned myself like a wall directly in front of my parents. The atmosphere in the yard instantly dropped to freezing point. My expression turned cold as I looked directly at those two so-called biological parents. First, my name is Vance, not Clark. Second, the way I am is thanks to my parents, and I think it's excellent. It is not your place to lecture me. I paused, then continued, each word delivered with chilling clarity. Third, your Clark family honor is worth less to me than the rear end of my pig patches. You. Marcus Clark's lips turned purple with rage, and he raised his hand to slap me. Just then, a figure lunged forward and forcefully blocked the space between us. It was Dustin. Everyone froze, including me. Dustin's face was flushed red as he stood up to his father's furious gaze, mustering the greatest courage of his life. He panted, glanced back at my stunned and helpless parents, and then looked at me standing nearby. The re-education of the past few days, though it caused him physical suffering, also made him see for the first time a different kind of life. He saw why Ethan Vance would rather give up $10 million and stay in this dump. He looked at his parents, his voice still shaking, but unusually firm. "Ethan, he seems really happy here. Can't you just leave him alone and leave me alone too?" This monumental declaration left the Clark parents completely frozen. Their greatest pride, their obedient, sensible heir, had publicly betrayed them. Insolence. Absolutely insubordinate. Marcus Clark was so angry he couldn't speak, pointing at Dustin, then at me, his fingers trembling uncontrollably. Mrs. Clark's face turned deathly pale. She could not accept that the product she had carefully cultivated for over 20 years was openly defying her for the sake of some country bumpkin. "Fine, fine, very good," she spat out through clenched teeth, her eyes venomous. "Neither of you step foot in the Clark estate again, and don't expect a single dime from the Clarks." After uttering these harsh words, They acted as if staying another second would be an insult. They turned and got into the car. The black Bentley, amidst the villagers' whispers, pulled away in a flurry of anger and humiliation. Quiet returned to the yard. Dustin watched his parents' cold retreat, his expression complicated, a mix of loss and confusion, but absolutely no regret. He turned around and for the first time looked at me without hostility. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I was too immature before." Looking at his handsome face smeared with chicken feathers, I suddenly didn't find him so irritating anymore. I walked over and clapped him on the shoulder. "It's fine. If you ever want to experience life again, you're welcome anytime. I'll give you a 20% discount on lodging." Dustin blinked, then couldn't help but laugh too. The two exchanged a smile, and all the past grievances seemed to dissipate in that shared moment. At that moment, Samantha Hayes, who had been silent, walked over. She had long since traded her stilettos for my mom's cloth shoes and her Chanel suit for some cheap track gear from the village store. Though the ensemble was mismatched, her eyes were brighter than ever before. She handed me a business card, Stellar Corp CEO Samantha Hayes. "Mr. Vance," she looked at me, her eyes glittering with excitement. "I think your Chill Zone project has incredible potential. Shall we discuss series of funding? I personally plan to invest $50 million upfront to help you develop this into a top-tier agrarian complex integrating ecological farming, rural tourism, and high-end resorts." "Me? Dustin?" I looked at her, then glanced at Patches and her babies rooting around in the pen, my expression complex. "Are you saying we should put Louis Vuitton tags on my pigs?" Samantha actually nodded seriously. "We can consider it. We could launch a co-branded line. Patches' noble series of black pork, exclusively for high society." Dustin rolled his eyes while listening from the side. He thought both of them were crazy, one even more so than the other. The towing company finally called the next day. The road had dried out, and they could come get the car. Dustin and Samantha Hayes ultimately had to leave the small village. Before leaving, Dustin changed back into his wrinkled suit. Although still looking disheveled, the look in his eyes was completely different from when he arrived. "Hey, Ethan," he said awkwardly. "If I have time, I'll come back to see the pigs." I smiled. "You're welcome anytime. Remember to bring a housewarming gift. Patches might be giving birth again." Samantha clung to my hand, clearly reluctant to leave. "Mr. Vance, please reconsider my investment plan. The market outlook is huge. I'll send my market research team over in a couple of days." I nodded vaguely, secretly hoping they wouldn't actually come. After sending off the two nuisances, my new two-story house was officially completed. My parents happily moved into the spacious and bright new home. Mom paced back and forth in the rooms a dozen times, touching this, looking at that, unable to stop smiling. I installed the fastest internet connection in the house, then settled into the rocking chair in the yard, feeling the mountain breeze, watching the piglets run all over the hills, and decided this was true heaven. However, my peaceful days didn't last long. Samantha Hayes' market research team actually arrived. A group of sharp-suited urban elites drove several SUVs, hauling all sorts of precision instruments, and descended upon the village in a grand procession. The result? Before the team could even begin their research, they were chased all over the mountain by the aggressively fighting free-range geese from Old Man Wong's place, crying for their mothers. In the end, I had to step in to rescue them from the geese's clutches. Although the process was bumpy, Samantha Hayes' influence was undeniable. After she promoted it within her high-end social circle, my Chill Zone ecological pork became an instant sensation. Because the pigs were fed purely on grain and raised running free across the hills, the meat was incredibly tender and flavorful. Orders began flying in like snowflakes. I was unwittingly becoming the renowned pig farming king of the region. The more money I made, the more I continued to wear my cargo shorts, lounge in my rocking chair, and drink tea every day. Occasionally, Dustin would text, complaining about how boring his company meetings were and how hypocritical the executives were, followed by a single line. "Kind of miss being chased by pigs." I would reply with a photo of the piglets crowding together to nurse, captioned, "Patches had another litter, come back when you can, bring a congratulatory gift." As for the Clark parents, they later tried to contact me in various ways, attempting reconciliation, perhaps thinking that the title of Pig Farming King sounded slightly better than Country Bumpkin. I ignored them all and blocked their numbers directly. Under the sun, with a warm breeze on my face, I watched the pigs running across the hills, listened to my parents laughing in the yard, and felt a profound peace in my heart. This was the home I wanted in both lifetimes. I comfortably closed my eyes in a rocking chair, slowly drifting off to sleep. In my dream, a chubby little piglet was gently nudging my flip-flop with its wet little nose. A tranquil life, a stable existence. That must be what this is. I transmigrated into the story of a novel, and a fragment of memory surfaced in my mind. I had just secured a 20 billion yuan project, yet my CEO fiancé gave the credit to her boy toy, and now she wanted me to be his assistant. My fiancé said coldly, "What's wrong? You're not willing? Do you even realize that your sour face is upsetting Makoto? I'm telling you, kneel down right now and apologize to Makoto. Don't make things difficult for me." I looked around. All the company's executives were watching, gloating. But I stood up slowly, lit a cigarette, and let out a mocking laugh. Difficult? Then don't bother handling it at all. I grabbed the edge of the table with both hands and flipped it over. That night, at the celebration banquet, my CEO fiancée Willow Lu sat at the head of the table. Beside her, her recently returned crush, Makoto. She held up a wristwatch worth 5 million yuan and stood. This time, our Lu Corporation managed to secure the 20 billion North City project entirely thanks to Makoto's efforts. Here, I officially announced that the position of vice president of the group will be taken by Makoto. This watch, apart from the bonus, is an additional gift to him. When she finished, she personally placed the watch on Makoto's wrist. The whole room fell silent in astonishment. Everyone knew that it was me who had worked overtime for a month, drank until my stomach bled, and finally secured that project. Makoto was merely my assistant, and now President Lu gave all the credit to Makoto alone. But the senior executives present had been in the business world for years. They were all shrewd foxes. Their surprise lasted only a few seconds before they recovered. They quickly raised their glasses to toast Makoto one after another. When they glanced my way, their eyes were full of disdain and mockery. Makoto is truly impressive. Less than 3 months in the company, and he's already landed such a major deal. Exactly. Makoto really deserves the title of Overseas Elite. What a bright future ahead. We'll be counting on your guidance, Vice President Makoto. In an instant, the private room filled with a festive, fawning atmosphere. Makoto, beaming with pride, clinked glasses with everyone in turn. From time to time, he shot me a provocative look. Willow Lu laughed and scolded playfully. "Oh, come on, stop crowding around Makoto. At least give me, the president of Lu Corporation, a chance to express my gratitude too, right?" The tenderness in Willow's eyes was obvious, and those old foxes could all see it clearly. They started jeering, saying the two of them should drink a couple's toast to show sincerity. Willow pretended to hesitate, glancing at me secretly a few times. When she saw that I didn't react at all, a flicker of irritation crossed her eyes. Urged on by the crowd's relentless teasing, the two of them finally drank the couple's toast. Makoto wrapped his arm around Willow's slender waist. Their eyes met, soft, lingering, filled with affection. The room erupted in thunderous applause. Every gaze turned toward me unconsciously. In each of their eyes flickered disdain and gloating amusement. "George," Willow set down her glass, as if only now remembering that she had a fiancé. She curved her lips slightly, speaking in a tone that carried an air of entitlement. "Your business ability may not be as good as Makoto's, but it's still decent. Here's what we'll do. Starting tomorrow, you'll be Makoto's assistant. Work hard and support him properly." Seeing that I still didn't respond, my Sunto brother-in-law Martin, the head of the logistics department, slammed his hand on the table and barked angrily. "George Su, what's with that dead face of yours? Who are you trying to impress? These 3 years you've been amnesiac. If our Lu family hadn't taken you in, you'd probably still be fighting stray dogs for food in some garbage bin. Truly pathetic and unpresentable." Willow's expression darkened further. "What's wrong? You're not willing. From the moment you walked in, you've had that rotten expression. Do you even realize that you're upsetting Makoto by acting like this? I'm telling you now, kneel down immediately and apologize to Makoto." It was only at that moment that I snapped out of the daze from having just transmigrated into this world. "So, I'd become the amnesiac male supporting character. The original me wasn't even named George Su, but George Wong. He was the president and largest shareholder of the #1 conglomerate in City A, the Wong Group. 3 years ago, due to a malfunction in his private jet, he was forced to parachute out. Although he survived, he lost his memory. He wandered aimlessly for days. By coincidence, he came across Willow racing her car in the suburbs, and she crashed badly. The car caught fire, and Willow was trapped inside. It was the original George who risked his life to pull her out. Barely a minute after the rescue, the sports car exploded violently. When Willow Lu learned that her savior had lost his memory, she took him home out of gratitude. Because the jade pendant George wore had the character Su engraved on it, the Lu family began calling him George Su. George stayed with the Lu family for a while. At that time, the Lu family's company was in serious trouble. Business was plummeting and bankruptcy loomed. Willow was exhausted, unable to eat or sleep properly, constantly running herself ragged. As the heroine of the novel, Willow was, of course, stunningly beautiful, with a curvy, seductive figure. After living under the same roof for some time, George naturally developed feelings for her. Although much of his memory was gone, his keen business instincts and sharp commercial acumen remained intact. Late at night, he secretly revised several of Willow's business proposals. Soon after, the Lu Corporation began to recover from its downfall, and things started to improve. When the Lu family accidentally discovered that George was behind the turnaround, they were overjoyed, thrilled as if they had struck gold. The Lu patriarch, seeking to bind George to the family, completely abandoned all thought of helping him recover his true identity. He used his connections to give George a new identity and wanted him to marry into the Lu family to serve them as their loyal workhorse for life. Though George was a business prodigy, he was also a complete simp. For the past 3 years, the original George had worked himself to the bone for Willow's approval, utterly devoted to the Lu family. Under his leadership, the Lu Corporation had grown rapidly. From a small, mediocre enterprise, it had risen to become the now prestigious Lu Group of City C. Willow had promised that if George could secure this 20 billion yuan deal, she would promote him to vice president of the group, and the two of them would marry immediately. To achieve that, the original George worked overtime for over a month, drinking with clients until he bled from the stomach, and finally signed the contract. But instead of keeping her word, Willow handed all the credit to her crush Makoto. All of George's selfless dedication and submissive loyalty over the past 3 years had been repaid with the Lu family's naked betrayal and contempt. No one in the Lu family saw him as worthy. In the novel, this simp version of George still clung to hope for Willow Lu. In the end, when Makoto pretended to be sick, George, manipulated by Willow's emotional PUA, agreed to donate his kidney to save her lover. He died miserably on the operating table. Thinking of this, I was consumed with fury. The original one was a simp, but I'm not. You want to dig out my kidney? Let's see if the Lu family can withstand my wrath. When Willow saw my face turn ugly, she grew even angrier. George, are you even listening? I'm telling you, kneel down right now and apologize to Makoto. Don't make this difficult for me. I stood up and scanned the room. All the company executives watched with gloating faces. I slowly lit a cigarette and scoffed. Difficult? Then don't bother trying. I grabbed the table with both hands and flipped it over. With a crash, dishes and drinks flew through the air. The scene instantly turned into a mess. Broken porcelain and glass, soup and wine splashed everywhere. Willow's pristine white suit was stained. Seafood soup drenched her head. Everyone in the room, except for a handful including me, was splattered and looked utterly humiliated. The private room fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was stunned by my crazy outburst. Willow snapped back to reality and exploded with rage. George, are you insane? After a brief moment of shock, Makoto's eyes quickly lit up with wild delight. He clutched Willow's sleeve with a wronged look. Willow, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have taken this project. George must be jealous. Willow, why don't we just give the credit for this project to George? I don't care what happens to me. Willow, distressed, immediately pulled him in to comfort him. Makoto, you're so kind. How could it be your fault? It's all because George is narrow-minded. I really gave him too much face. She turned to look at me, her gaze dark as night. George, hurry up and kneel to apologize to Makoto, or don't expect me to forgive you. My brother-in-law Martin had only just wiped the caviar off his face. A vein bulged on his forehead as he grabbed a bottle of red wine and barreled toward me angrily. George, you coward. Are you fucking asking for death, hey? Before transmigrating, I was a national Sonda champion. Although the original was a simp, he'd been pampered for years and remained in excellent physical condition. Little Martin scrawny, did he really dare come at me? With a thud, the wine bottle smashed against my forearm and shattered. Wine and glass shards sprayed everywhere. The executives gasped and quickly scattered. A flash of excitement lit my eyes as I seized Martin by the throat. I slammed him down to the floor. I grabbed an empty wine bottle and smashed it down on his head. Bang! Ah! The bottle shattered again, shards flying everywhere. Martin's scream pierced through the entire private room. Blood gushed down his forehead. The once arrogant young master of the Liu family was now rolling on the floor, groaning like a dying dog. Ah! My head! Sis, help me! I'll kill him! Martin clutched his bleeding head, his eyes burning with venomous hatred. The room fell dead silent. Everyone was frozen in shock by the bloody scene before them. Those executives who'd been gloating earlier had gone pale as paper. Several female executives screamed in terror. Willow was completely stunned. She couldn't believe that the once submissive, compliant man before her had suddenly turned violent. George, how dare you? She shrieked and rushed toward me. I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. The sharp crack echoed throughout the room. Willow's head snapped to the side. The room was struck dumb again. Was this really the same simp who used to obey every word of President Liu? For the first time, panic and confusion flickered in Willow's eyes. She covered her reddened cheek, staring at me in disbelief, her voice trembling. You actually hit me. I slapped her again, this time on the other side of her face. Willow, if I hadn't saved you back then, the grass on your grave would already be 3 meters tall. For the past 3 years, I've given you everything, heart, soul, and effort. I even turned your nearly bankrupt family business into the corporation it is today. I kicked her in the knee. Her legs buckled, and she fell straight to her knees. And how did you repay me? You treated me like a dog, calling when you pleased, dismissing me when you were bored. I worked myself to death to land a 20 billion project for you, and you turned around and gave all the credit to your boy toy. You dared to drink a couple's toast with him right in front of me. I slapped her across the face again, harder this time. Where's your shame? Ah. Willow Liu, the proud president of the Liu Corporation, was now on her knees, being slapped by the man she had always looked down on. Humiliation burned in her chest. She struggled to stand but couldn't and screamed hysterically. George, you've lost your mind. Forget the facts for a second. Wasn't all of this something you chose to do just to please me? You love me so much. Isn't it just because you were jealous seeing me drink with Makoto? Can't you be a little more generous? Hey, of course. This was exactly the kind of cliché scene straight out of a girl's romance novel. I couldn't help but laugh, irritated by how absurd her words sounded. Be more mature? I mocked. I crouched down and grabbed her delicate, pale chin. Then since you're already kneeling in front of me and taking the hits, why don't you be the one to act mature? Pretend nothing happened, all right? Just then, I felt a gust of wind rush toward me from behind. Instinctively, I dodged and kicked. Bam! Makoto, who had been about to attack me with a bottle, took my kick straight to the stomach and went flying. He slammed hard against the wall and slid down, groaning in pain. Damn it, this fake, pretentious coquette even dares attack me from behind. I rushed toward him, grabbed his hair, and smashed his head against the wall again and again. In a women's novel world, logic doesn't work, only physical solutions do. Willow, seeing Makoto getting beaten up, went crazy. George, stop. You can hit me all you want, but if you dare lay a hand on Makoto, you'll pay for it. Call the police, quick. I want that bastard thrown in jail. The executives, still paralyzed by fear, finally snapped out of it. They scrambled to pull out their phones to call the police. I froze for a second. Was there even police in this girl's novel world? Damn it. I hadn't accounted for that. I quickly regained my composure, leaned close to Makoto, and whispered a few words in his ear. His face instantly twisted, turning pale as wax. He screamed in panic. No, don't call the police. Hang up now. For a few seconds, everyone stood frozen, No one knew whether they should continue the call or not. Seeing that Makoto could behave properly, I decided to forgive him for now. Willow immediately ran to him, her eyes full of worry. Makoto, his face pale and contorted, spoke quickly. Willow, don't call the police. The company just secured this crucial contract. If word gets out and it affects the partnership, the losses for the group would be immeasurable. And besides, you and George are an engaged couple. If this gets to the media, the reputation of the Liu family. Hey, this Makoto really deserved his title as the protagonist. Quick-witted, clever, and smooth-tongued. And as expected, his reasoning deeply moved Willow. Tears welled up in her eyes. Makoto, you're so kind. Even in this condition, you're still thinking about the company and the Liu family. I didn't bother exposing him. That Makoto was a venomous snake, and I planned to use him against the Lius. Before leaving, I gave Makoto one last kick. Then I turned and walked toward the door. Willow, furious, stood up, shouting, George, what do you think you're doing? If you walk out of this room, don't ever come back. I'm warning you, if you don't kneel right now and apologize to me and Makoto, I'll never forgive you. I tilted my head slightly and gave her a mocking look. Oh really? Then it's over, Willow. Unless you kneel now and beg me, maybe I'll consider it. Willow exploded with rage, clenching her fists so tightly her knuckles cracked. I no longer felt like dealing with her powerless fury. I strode out of the hall with firm steps. No one dared stop me. The crowd backed away a few steps, their eyes filled with fear. George, you bastard! Willow shouted behind me. You're nothing but a dog of the Liu family. Do you really think you can survive without us? I didn't stop or even glance back. According to the original story, the Wong Corporation was still powerful under the leadership of its vice president, Anna. I didn't return immediately to the Wong Group headquarters. First, I went to the police station to retrieve my ID, then to the bank to reactivate my card. Seeing that long string of zeros in my account filled me with a sense of security. I took the first flight to a small island in the South Pacific. After all, having just regained my fortune, the first thing to do was to relax a little. I lay back on the beach chair, gazing at the turquoise sea and the endless blue sky, sipping a glass of rich red wine, watching the beach full of bikinis, and feeling two stunning young models massaging my legs. Now this was the ultimate pleasure of the rich. But good things never last long. Only 3 days had passed when Anna showed up. Anna's beauty even surpassed Willow's, especially those long, slender legs of hers, miles ahead of Willow's. She looked at me, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. I touched the jade pendant hanging on my chest and let out a sigh. That pendant had been a gift from Anna Sue. The engraved character Sue was her family name. She had been a poor student sponsored by the Wong family, living in their home since childhood. After graduating from an elite overseas university, she joined the Wong Group as an intern. Through her own hard work, Anna had climbed her way up from the bottom all the way to vice president. After the original George disappeared, she kept the news tightly under wraps to maintain the company's stability. For 3 years, she had never stopped searching for me in secret. In the novel's original plot, after George Wong's death, Anna went completely insane, fell into darkness. The Liu family vanished overnight, wiped off the face of the earth, but Anna in the end couldn't escape the law either. Her ending was tragic and pitiful. I grinned at her cheerfully. Anna, long time no see. Suddenly, she lost control of her emotions and threw herself at me. Her fists, carrying a faint fragrance, rained down on my chest like a storm. George Wong, you bastard. Do you have any idea what these 3 years have been like for me? You disappeared for 3 whole years. Do you know how hard it's been for me to keep the board under control? Do you know how worried I was about you? I thought you were dead, and yet I had to pretend every day like nothing had happened. I thought I'd never see you again. Sob. When she finally tired herself out, she collapsed against me, crying softly, her fragrant shoulders trembling uncontrollably. I held her tightly, and a wave of pity welled up in my chest. I'm sorry, I said gently. I lost my memory. These past 3 days ago, did everything come back to me? She jerked her head up, her face full of shock. I slowly told her everything that had happened over the last 3 years, the Liu family. Anna's eyes turned cold. The Liu group that suddenly rose to power in City C over the past 3 years. I nodded. They deliberately hid the truth about my accident and memory loss 3 years ago, just to tie me down and make me their servant. A flicker of icy killing intent flashed in Anna's eyes. They dared to treat you like that. Don't rush to act, I said, patting her hand reassuringly. I have my own plan. The Liu family will pay for what they've done. The next day, Anna and I flew back to Cydia together. I convened a board meeting immediately. The shareholders who had been celebrating my presumed death were now ashen with shock. They glanced at one another. Then, forcing their courage, some of them stood up to challenge me. They accused me of being absent for 3 years and claimed it was an extremely irresponsible act toward the group. They even arrogantly demanded that I resign to take responsibility. Hey, these fake people in this ridiculous world still needed physical measures to be subdued. I grabbed the ringleader by the throat and squeezed hard. With one hand, I lifted him off his feet. I didn't let go until he was nearly about to faint. He dropped to his knees, his face flushed crimson, clutching his neck with both hands. He hacked and coughed, his eyes full of terror. He didn't dare open his mouth again. With a loud thunk, I drove a dagger deep into the office desk, narrowing my eyes as I scanned the room. Who the hell else has an objection? Step forward now. The other shareholders were cowed by my ruthless display. One by one, they met my gaze and involuntarily bowed their heads. Seeing these troublemakers become obedient and restrained, Anna couldn't help but cast me a look of admiration. These past 3 years, they had tormented her countless times. Many times, after meeting, she had snuck away to wipe her tears. Who would have thought that on the very first day of my return, I would crush them so utterly that they couldn't lift their heads? I then issued my first strategic command. The Wong Group would immediately advance into City C. Of course, it wasn't only to deal with the Liu family. City C isn't far from City A and has only recently begun to develop these past few years. It's a golden opportunity to seize market share. And since I knew the major forces and plans in City C inside and out, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. A month later, Anna and I were riding in the company's presidential car on our way to City C. Willow's calls kept coming in one after another. I rejected every single one of them. Then came her voice messages. George, I'm giving you 1 hour. Get over here right now. You've made enough of a scene. What the hell do you want? If you come back now and apologize to Makoto, I can pretend nothing ever happened. Otherwise, don't even think about me forgiving you. I cursed under my breath, called her an idiot, then rolled down the car window and threw the phone out. My old number had already been reinstated. The identity of George Sue was no longer needed. Anna held onto my arm and spoke softly. George, I've already had people look into what's going on inside the Liu Group. That fool Makoto is a total amateur. He doesn't understand anything. Since he became vice president, he's lost several major projects in just over a month. The Liu Group's performance has already started dropping sharply. Makoto blames everyone else for the problems and spends every day raging in the company, firing several of the truly competent people. At this rate, we won't even have to do anything. The Liu Group will destroy itself soon enough. The chaos in the Liu Group didn't surprise me in the slightest. Willow, that hopeless love-brained woman, handed control of the company to a con artist. It would be a miracle if the company didn't collapse. Anna continued. Willow's only trying to reach you now because she's really desperate. Her eyes, bright as starlight, locked onto mine. George, don't tell me you still have feelings for her. I pinched her soft cheeks and gave them a playful tug. What are you thinking, silly girl? Ow, that hurts. Anna pouted and slapped my hand away, though a sweet smile spread across her face. I just got a little worried, that's all. You did spend 3 years with her. Thinking of the original George's 3 years of bathing made my face burn with embarrassment. Nonsense, my brain must have been broken back then, all right? Don't bring that up ever again. Anna covered her mouth and giggled. I leaned in and planted a kiss on her flawless cheek. Besides, Mayan is prettier than she is, and you've got a better body too. With you by my side, how could I ever look at another woman? Anna's delicate face instantly flushed red. She nestled into my chest, too shy to lift her head. After a long silence, she whispered, Georgia, promise me you'll never leave me again, okay? I touched her soft, tear-streaked face and found she was crying again. Holding her tightly, I spoke a single word with all my strength. Okay. Just as Anna and I checked into the Delian Grand Hotel in City C, we unexpectedly ran into Willow, who was there hosting a dinner for business partners. She suddenly called out to me from behind, her voice trembling with suppressed anger. "George, stop right there." I told Anna to go ahead and take the elevator first. Then I turned around and looked at Willow with a cold, detached expression. Willow glared at me, her whole body shaking with rage. Just moments ago, she had seen me behaving intimately with a woman. She hadn't seen the woman's face clearly, but that figure, hotter than her own, was enough to ignite the fury she'd been holding back. "George, you bastard. You don't answer my calls, you ignore my messages, and now you're walking into a hotel with another woman. Do you have any shame? Tell me right now, who is that woman? Have you been staying with that fox spirit these past few days?" Watching her lose control like that, I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smirk. "Miss Lou," I said coolly, "have you forgotten that there's nothing between us anymore?" Then, as if suddenly remembering something, I changed my tone. "Even if there were something between us, why is it that only you're allowed to have an old flame, but I'm not?" As expected, when your heart is filthy, everything you see looks filthy too. That last line was one she herself had once thrown at me. The night Makoto returned to the country, Willow had hosted a welcome party for him. The original George had gone to pick her up, only to catch the two of them hugging at the bar entrance. He'd stormed up to confront her, furious, but Willow had looked annoyed and impatient. "George, there's nothing between me and Makoto. If there really were, would I still be engaged to you?" As expected, when your heart is filthy, everything you see looks filthy too. Now I returned those exact same words to her, word for word. Willow froze for a moment, then let out a shriek. "George, you really are something. You love me so much, and now you found a woman just to put on a show. You're just trying to make me jealous, aren't you? Hoping I'll pay more attention to you? Hey, let me tell you, your little tricks don't work on me. All this time you've been avoiding the company, trying to prove that the Lu Group can't survive without you, trying to see me fail and laugh at me. George, you really are vicious. Yes, fine, I admit it. Without you, the Lu Group has had some trouble this past month, but you probably don't know yet, do you? The top company in City A, the Wong Group, is expanding into City C. As long as our Lu Group secures a contract with the Wong Group, we'll rise straight to the top. If you apologize to Makoto right now and obediently come back to work as his assistant, it's still not too late. Otherwise, the Lu Group will soon be far beyond your reach. And when that day comes, even if you kneel and beg me, I won't give you so much as a single glance." Just then, her phone started ringing loudly. I could tell right away it was the custom ringtone she'd set for Makoto. She answered it, and her expression instantly changed. "What? Your kidneys hurt? Wait there. I'll be right over." She hung up and hurried off, completely forgetting I even existed. Heh, so even after I'm gone, Makoto still won't give up, still scheming to get at my kidney. His good days were almost over. Once Willow left, I turned to my assistant who was standing nearby and gave a calm order. "Hire a private investigator. I want every move Willow and Makoto make watched closely." The assistant nodded quickly and rushed off to make the arrangements. Why stay in a hotel when a big villa is so much more comfortable? The next day, I had my assistant arrange the purchase of a top-tier estate.